Tim Miller, the disc golf guy here, and I hope all is well as I get things up and running for you guys. I know things are a little hectic and running late, but hopefully this is all going to work out for us. I'm going to do one or two quick things to see if I can make sure that we're good to go. And number one is, I apologize. Probably should have done some of this. I was too concerned about trying to get up and running too quickly. And hopefully now I will be all good to go. Give me 2 seconds. All right. Welcome in, everyone. Yes, as you can see, the claw, whatever you want to call it. I've seen better days, that's for sure. All right, I will tell you guys all about the arm. Let me get a few things going. And first, let's start by somebody has to clarify with me that everything looks and sounds about as good as it can. This, of course, is being a little bit of a is a rival disc golf trying to take out SmashBoxx. I don't think so. But I do want to make sure that everything sounds as good as it possibly can. So hopefully Tommy is saying it said looks and sounds good. So I'm just going to roll with it. If you haven't noticed already, not a normal show. Johnny V contacted me earlier today. First of all, I'm not back in Wisconsin. I'm staying out on the West Coast because, of course, next weekend is we're going to have broadcasting the Preserve, and I am in the booth for the Preserve next weekend. And so I didn't venture all the way back to Wisconsin. But tonight, it's going to be just me. Johnny V told me earlier today that his internet was not healthy, I guess. Yeah, we'll use that as a good word. Internet not necessarily healthy and working as well as it should have been. So he said that he was just going to stand down. I, at that point, had to contact one Gannon Burr and let Gannon know that it would probably be too much of a lift for me to get everything figured out. As you can see, I have enough of my challenges working alone. So Gannon was gracious enough to say that he was going to be able to carve out some time and join me tonight, but ends up not being the case. So you're going to get a very basic podcast, and I'm going to try and break down everything that I can for what you guys saw this weekend as I head over to UDisc Live, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what we saw over at the Des Moines Challenge. Everyone's getting ready for this weekend's Preserve Championship. I'll talk about that in just a moment once I wrap up things for the Preserve. So I'm going to go back and take a look. And yes, when I'm running the show, things are a little bit more basic. Let's see here. I'm going to start on the FPO side. Of course, if somehow you're under a rock, maybe you didn't know what all went down this weekend, but it was the challenge of the weather. And we couldn't ultimately get all of our rounds in on the MPO side. The FPO round had just gotten started. Actually, the very first time that it was called on Saturday morning. Round one was fine. Round one was great. Round two, Saturday morning, our FPO lead card was just about able to tee off, and then all of a sudden it had to be called. Then I think they got 6 holes in. I think it was 6. Is that the first time? At any point, there was a delay. Then they got pulled off the course. Then they played just a few more holes. I think it was like 7, 8, 9. Then they got pulled off the course ultimately for the rest of the day. That's with regard to the FPO lead card anyway. Then there was a lot of contemplation, conversation that all took place. And it was ultimately decided that 27 holes would get played on Sunday for the FPO division. They'd come, well, just the lead card had 27 holes to play. They would come back out, they would play Sunday morning very early, and then they would play their 18-hole round 3, and then the men at that point had no choice but to just play 18 holes, and that they would have a 2-round tournament. So if you were living under a rock and somehow didn't know everything that went on, that's how this weekend unfolded in Des Moines. And it was madness. I'll save a lot of my editorial stuff for now, but the long and short of it is that I'm aware that the Disc Golf Pro Tour is utilizing some of the same services that the NFL I think PGA and MLB all use when it comes to weather conditions and forecasts and things of that nature. So safety is paramount, and I can't say it enough. And I understand that it seems frustrating if there isn't rain or there isn't lightning that you're seeing. But what you also have to realize is how many of these storms can and continue to pop up out of nowhere with regard to various pressures and the humidity and all the other conditions that were going on. Things that weren't on a radar 1 minute, 10 minutes later was this big nasty cell or band or something of that nature. And that's where the consulting with these professionals came into play, along with all the programs that were used, and the fact that there was one meteorologist literally on site that was part of it, and then there was another meteorologist that I guess we essentially have on call at all times as well, or have access to, maybe not on call, but at least have access to. So when it's talked about in terms of who's being consulted, who knows best, it's not the guy or girl a few hours or on the other side of the country away. All right, it's not them. It's going to be the staff and the crew that we have, and I've said it countless times throughout the years. Could you absolutely fathom something terrible happening just once? A player getting struck by lightning, lightning hitting a tree or a basket, and then somehow directly impacting a player just once. And then you know what gets said? How in the world did they let that happen? How did they not prevent that? How did they not pull everyone off the course? So I just have to say that, the crew and the staff know what they're doing, and preventative care in this case, or preventative measures, are so that you're not stuck behind the 8 ball, so that you're not in a pinch, so that you're not then forced into an emergency. And I know it sucks and it seems boring and not best for fans, but let's be real. We have to do what's best for the players, and we have to do what's best for everyone on site, including staff, crew, volunteers. Heaven forbid something happened to a player, and the same could be said of a staff member, a spectator, a volunteer. Could you imagine being out there volunteering and then you get struck by lightning and everyone says that's the thanks you get for being a volunteer? All right, that's enough of my soapbox. Just know people are working on that, and it is all taken very seriously. When it was all said and done, though, although it was close for a little while, Kristen Tatar pulls ahead in Kristen-like fashion. I see that she had the one bogey during hole number 2, which is funny that I don't even remember. Oh, she threw out of bounds. She had the one bogey on hole number 2, and then nothing but pars and birdies from there on out. So kicked it into an extra gear, and then just kind of left everyone behind. Missy Gannon, who's a previous champion of the event, she ended up taking second. She battled back hard to do so. She had 4 bogeys when it was all said and done, but battles to take second. And then we saw the tie with Jennifer Allen, who's been playing great golf lately. Stacey Ronsley, who kind of pretty much had the weekend of her career so far. She's won events before, but nothing of this scale. And so for her to finish tied for third, awesome. And then she tied with Macy Veladiaz, who we saw out there as well. And then making some moves, Valerie Mondahano. We saw that she didn't quite have it all together coming off her injury last weekend at DDO. So for her to go from 25th into a tie for 6th, very impressive. She tied Kat Murch. And then the others in the top 9, well, I'll call it the top 9 or rounding out the top 10, included Vanessa Van Dyken, who had a pretty solid weekend, Ella Hansen, and Paige Pierce. All 3 of them finishing in a tie for 9th, so taking the top 10 spots. Congratulations. Awesome. I will, before I move on, I will quickly also make note of it. $12,250 for first place. Not too shabby. Believe it or not, that is Kristen Tatar's second largest payout of her career. Of course, she won the Pro Tour Championship last weekend, $35,000. She won the World Championships last year which was a new record, and that was $11,000 over there in Emporia. So she won $11,000, which again is insane when I think about where we were just a few years ago. She won 11 grand for taking down the world title, and then this weekend in Des Moines, her second largest payout of her career, $12,250. I don't know what else to say about that other than that's incredible. Absolutely.
I don't know what else to say about that.
Hey, I also know that when I bring up my computer there, it looks like the volume's on. So, just incredible. All right, we're going to move over to the men's side. They played just 2 rounds, not to any fault of their own, of course. Somebody says it's 160,000 kroony. I think they use euros. So I know I made the joke and the reference once or twice during that final round. 12,250 US dollars, I think, comes to about 11,000 euros right now. And I'm pretty sure in Estonia they use euros, but I could be wrong. I was wrong one other time. MPO side, it was a battle. Gannon Buhr takes it down. It was really interesting to see because of the way it unfolded. The fact that he really knew what he needed to do to close out the last couple of holes. That's not always the case. Rarely, I want to say rarely, does it feel like, I know we've had chase card winners, of course, but rarely does it feel like the hot score is in the clubhouse and then the leader has to go and then obtain that, has to get to that score. That's what it feels like. Because I don't know why. Man, somebody could correct me, but that's what it usually feels like. Either way, Gannon Buhr knew exactly what he needed to do on the last few holes. And of course, woulda, coulda, shoulda, but Isaac Robinson, who was looking so good and making this incredible charge, to have him then double the final hole, there's no one probably more shocked than him with that. But yeah, again, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Just think if he doesn't double that final hole, what kind of pressures that changes for Gannon as he tries to close out his round, just knowing how much more a certain score is needed. He had a little bit of cushion, so to speak, going into to 17 and 18 because Isaac was essentially already in the clubhouse. So Gannon Buhr shoots 19 under. Worth mentioning as well, $12,250. Now, I've got to wonder, because I didn't do the math, is that Gannon's second highest payout or probably third? I'm going to guess, well, he didn't win the Tour Championship, so I'm going to guess USDGC was probably higher than that. I'm going to guess that was 15-ish thousand. Oh, oh wow. Oh, shows how much I remember from just a year ago. 25 grand. Holy cow. It was that much. I think back to the years when 10, 12, and 15,000 was the big number. 25 grand. So yes, this was also his second largest paycheck of his career at $12,250. Let me go back to last year though. What did he get at what would have been the Tour Champion, the disc golf? Oh, see, I'm already wrong. Okay, that makes more sense. It was his third highest. He won 14,000 last year at the Pro Tour Championships presented by Barbasol. Put it on your face. He won 14,000. I apologize. That's why it didn't sound right. So 25,000 for USDGC win, 14,000 for the Tour Championship last year, and this is now his third largest. He got third at the Barbasol event, the Tour Championship. So this is his third largest paycheck ever at $12,250. Not too shabby, I guess. Is that what someone would say? 115 career events for Gannon Buhr, 28 wins. I think of how many of those came in the junior and other divisions. And then U.S. rank number 2 over there on the PDGA. Pretty crazy. Yeah, Daddy, disc golf. I'm here for it. So, Gannonburg, your champ, Isaac Robinson ends up holding on for dear life for second place. Greg Barsby, Calvin Heimberg, Ezra Robinson, and Gavin Babcock all tying for third. What did that come out to for each of them? Some of those guys that I'm thinking might be some of their largest paychecks or larger paychecks as well. I don't know how much that was for Ezra, but I'm sure that can't be a small sum. Sorry, I'm going to do a little bit of research here. Okay. 7,500 for Isaac for second. Barsby, Heimberg, Ezra, and Babcock all took 3,225 apiece. Not too bad. Anthony Barella ties for seventh, along with Simon Lazat. And rounding out your top 10, Kevin Jones in ninth. Chris Clemens and Brody Smith finish in 10th. I want to say, first of all, Brody jumped up 7 spots in that final round. Chris Clemens jumped up 16. So both of them doing some pretty good work there. And congrats to them both. And I want to say, I believe Brody posted saying that this might be his highest Pro Tour finish this year, or maybe ever. Somewhere in that neighborhood. But nonetheless, congrats. Nice shooting by both of them. Taking a quick side note to that. Well, let's wrap up the True Bank. Congratulations to the staff, the crew. A ton of work, a ton of energy, all that effort. Third year in a row with weather conditions that somehow altered or messed with the play. I live in Wisconsin. I'm only 6 hours from Des Moines. I don't think of weather being that volatile in Wisconsin for us. And maybe it is that much more so in Iowa. Of course, we're subject to winter storms, but also summer storms and heat and humidity. Not quite the way they pop up there. And it's even somewhat surprising to me. I mean, that weather is just generally not that much different than Wisconsin. Yet we've now had this terrible luck of 3 years in a row of being at the Des Moines Challenge and having this crazy weather. So fingers crossed next year, maybe everything goes smoothly. I don't think we can just say, well, let's change the date, because you have no idea. You have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, this weekend, if you think about it, Friday was almost perfect, almost. Sunday was windy, but still good. And it was just Saturday. It was 12 or 14 hours of Saturday. That was madness. You can never pick a perfect time or perfect day at any point during a year. So, but best of big thanks and just so much appreciation for everyone over at the event for continuing to keep everyone's safety in mind and push things forward. Also, I think it was very timely that we saw the PDGA just in the last few weeks announce how there has been some adjustments to mid-round cancellations and to mid-round event changes. I thought some of those might come into play this weekend. They really didn't. They kind of move forward as if there was no adjustment to that policy, but there is a policy in place. And maybe that's the big takeaway here is, if you're curious how it works, or if you're at all concerned about it, just know there is a policy in place. This is not willy-nilly. This is not made up. This is not, 100% the discretion of a sponsor or of a local club or of a particular TD. There are policies, there are procedures in place, and those just got somewhat amended in the last few weeks. So we have to default to the protocol. And I say all of that because I know there's a lot of people that say, well, why don't you just da-da-da-da-da-da? Well, because there's protocol. There's policy. Like this is how it gets handled. Those may continue to evolve and change over the next few decades. I'm guessing they will. But just know there are written solutions for how some of these challenges get handled and get dealt with. So, and then as a quick segue to our side note to that, just today, what are the odds that the Amateur World Championships taking place in Illinois, Peoria, Illinois, had been postponed to some degree indefinitely for the day, and then some started back up. But the the AM World Championships, AM and Junior World Championships today had an air quality postponement. I think I've seen that once, and that was at the preserve from some Canadian wildfires. I've seen that once in the previous 30 years of disc golf, and now it's happened twice in the last 2.5 or 3 years. What can you say about it? I applaud the PDGA. We're trying to keep juniors, and we're trying to keep everyone safe. But yeah, the air quality index, I think I heard today that it was that anything over 200 for an AQI is considered unplayable, and which they paused AM Worlds at some point today. I know in Wisconsin, just literally 3 hours north of where Peoria is, near my hometown, my daughter was saying that the air quality index hit like 334, which is dangerous and not good. So will this at all impact? Did this roll through the preserve at all? I feel like if it did, it's probably past now, and it won't come into effect for us this weekend. I didn't see too many postings from the preserve, but I have to feel like they had some of it. They did a few years ago, but if it's already in Peoria and Milwaukee, generally assuming it's moving somewhat either west to east or even north to south, I have a feeling that it has already moved past the preserve. Which is just incredible. And as Johnny V, who's found the internet, says, worst AQI in the world right now in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, or in that area. So maybe I'm glad I didn't go home for a few days. Sounds nasty. All right. So AM Worlds. Let's move over to that. Congratulations to, again, Gannon Burr, Kristen Tatar. As I said to Gannon today, because I had him lined up last night, I said, we're excited to have you today. Johnny had the internet issue, so on and so forth. I said, don't worry. I know you've got plenty of wins still in store, and it probably won't be long before we have you. We can invite you back. Not that he has to win, but I know that's customary for us. So, yes, thank you to Gannon for being both flexible and agreeable to it all. So I'm going to type in. Let's do. I'm gonna roll with our normal protocol. Johnny V would probably go this way. Let's go to any other A tiers. Of course, we know that there was play on the other side of the world over there in Norway, taking place at the Krokel Open, or in Krokel, the Krokel Open. I'm going to take a quick click on that and just give you guys a few of the highlights in that. Bradley Williams took down Paul Macbeth. Oyvind Jarnes out of Norway, took third. And Silver Lot, who often is referred to as the significant other of Kristen Tatar. Silver finished fourth. Elias Luukkonen finished in a tie for fifth, along with Miro Rajanen. Yeah. On the FPO side, those were your top five. On the FPO side, Silva Saarinen took first. Jenny Karpinen took second. Rachel Turton took third. Sophie B took fourth. And Luke Lorentzen took fifth. So those are your top five on the Norwegian event. And hopefully you saw some of that. It was actually kind of crazy. During our rain delay or our weather delay, we went into the other room, brought up Disc Golf Network, and sat and watched action taking place in Norway. Somehow it didn't feel right, but nonetheless. San Francisco Safari taking place this weekend. Jeff Faze took down that first place. Michael Powell took second, along with Leif Swenson. And Andrew Miranda took fourth. And then tying for fifth was Logan Ritter, Mike Sale, Jacob Blair, and then we saw Lewis Bitney. It's funny. I'll admit, I wanted to, immediately my mind went to almost call him Jakub Lar. when it's Jacob Blair. I've been reading a few too many Norwegian and Finnish and European names because that was where my mind first went. On the FPO side, Owen Scoggins took it down. Jenny Umstead took second. Carissa Dedman took third. So congratulations. I know it was a good battle between Ray Johnson and Shasta Chris. Ray Johnson edged out Shasta in the MP40 side. So that's what you saw for the San Francisco Safari, supported by Innova. And I don't know if we had any other A tiers no other A tiers are jumping out at me. So even though there was some postponing today, I want to jump down. Oh my gosh, we must have set a record for amount of events. I want to jump down to what we're seeing at the PDGA AM and Junior Worlds real quick. I'm going to see if there's anything that jumps out at me. We see a great battle. They're playing Northwood Black. I'm not sure where they played today. I could click on it. Doesn't tell me. Update that, Nate Heinold. Axel Olsen, Chuck Hoffman, and Carson Smith. A few of your guys that I see out in the front in terms of your MA1A pool. Lots of other scores that still need to be submitted. FA1, currently, I am seeing Hannah Lengel out in front in first. So, all right, we'll see how they're doing. Let's jump over real quick. I just want to see if we got a few juniors to shout out. Hopefully they're having a good time. Junior Worlds. Again, I know some groups got pulled off the course today. Some got to go back out and play, and some didn't. But I see there's at least 2 rounds that were recorded for the MJ18 division. Judah Koistra? I'm guessing that's it. Where is Judah out of? 951 rated out of North Carolina. I'm guessing some of you guys are thinking, well, duh, I knew that. I did not. So, Judah, nice work. Currently a 3-stroke advantage. Lots of scores still out there. Jasper Worth shows that there is a lead. And Therese Cuevas has a sizable lead after 2 rounds, shooting 8 under. Next closest is 2 under. Daniel Mahine also has a 1-stroke lead. Abigail Kowalski currently looks like there's not a full round in. And a couple others, that don't have full rounds in. Sarah Wadsworth's leading. Rylan Haig is leading. Genevieve Davis representing Wisconsin. So, of course, I'm a little biased. And that's all I have for otherwise fully submitted scores. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about that if you guys have comments and people out there in the chat. We can talk more about that in a moment. So, best of luck. Call it a spiel that I could give every year, but AM Worlds, Junior Worlds, any Worlds for that matter, of course, but AM Junior Worlds, what an awesome time, especially more now than ever. We've got more courses, more players, more vendors, more dialed in, the technology, the way in which everything is run. I hope everyone, no matter where you finish, hopefully you make some friends. I think about so many of the players, because the Worlds is just that. It's bringing in people from literally all around the world. And I think I saw 47 or 48 states, maybe 17 countries represented. I could go on and on and on about the amount of people that I've met in playing 20 different world championships. I played 4 of them when I was still a teen, moving into my early 20s. And then I played 16 consecutive Pro Worlds. The people you meet, this was also pre-internet, so it was a little bit, some of these people were, you didn't get to keep in touch with them the way we can now, but just the people you meet, the cultures, the way you see people handle themselves, the amazing terminology, the things you pick up when you're playing with somebody from another part of the country and how they refer to a forehand flick as a finger pop, or just all the different shots that you throw a shot and then somebody else on your card utters something about that shot or says something about it, or whatever they say, and it's a completely different term than you've ever heard for it. I can't say enough. I mean, that's just one tiny little example that I can think of in terms of seeing these people. And then your fly marts, your dinners, your social gatherings. You guys mostly have all gone through they've all gone through all the games, the putting competition, the distance competition, the edge skill shot challenge, the mini golf. Those were all some of my favorite things. Playing golf was fun. Being there is great. But all of those additional things that you got to do along with playing golf with all these people from all around the world, I just can't say enough. It's funny because I'm just thinking about all those various events. I think I saw someone ask my best finish. Funny enough, quick story. When it was in my hometown in at the time Appleton, Wisconsin, it was Friday night. My mother was getting remarried that night, and I was in a rush to get my round done. This was all pre-planned, but I was in a rush to get my round done, and head over to the gathering. We got done with the round. I drive back to my house, which is only 10 or 15 minutes away. And as I'm getting ready for the shower, and it's funny, I still do this to this day, I'm in my bathroom getting ready for the shower, but I'm literally taking everything out of my pockets. I'm emptying out my pockets. I'm not going to be wearing those shorts again. I'm emptying everything out. And out of my back pocket comes the scorecard. The paper scorecard for the entire group. The only scorecard for the entire group. This was July 1998. Cell phones weren't really a thing. I mean, they were, but they weren't. And at that point, and this had already been now 30, 40 minutes since our round was over, because I drove home, getting stuff ready. Quickly showered, fastest shower ever. Got in the car, drove straight downtown, which was only, again, 10 minutes away. Drove straight downtown to then come running in, and as I'm walking past some people doing some putting stuff and some other qualifying events that were going on, and there might have been the fly mart and some other stuff or whatever was going on, and people are like, "Hey, they were trying to look for you. So and so was trying to call you. Where you been?" Da 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 da. Well, I run in to the scoring room at the hotel at the time and hand in the scorecard, to which I'm notified, "Hey, well, thanks for turning it in, but you and the rest of your card are getting a 2-stroke penalty. All 4 of you get a 2-stroke penalty. You get your final score plus a 2-stroke penalty. Those are the rules." Of course, I feel terrible. Da 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 da. We fast forward just to find out me and a couple others missed the semifinals because of that. I made a few enemies. I think a couple to this day, which is too bad. They should probably get over it. I'm not dismissing what I did. I made an honest mistake as a 19-year-old, 17-year-old, whatever I was. 20-year-old, actually. Yeah, I would have been 20. Yeah, that was terrible. And to this day, since 1998, so what is that, 25 years later, I've never made that mistake again. And I feel like every single person has a chance to make one of those mistakes once. Not that you want to, but when you do, you never do it again. So when you're done, and now things are different because of all the digital scoring, but the big rule was, when you're done, you walk that other person up to the scoring tent. You make sure they hand in the scorecard, because it's the responsibility of the group. Yes, everyone could yell at me and was mad at me personally. In theory, they could have been personally mad at themselves too. to some degree. And I'm not saying I didn't make the mistake, I did. But at the time, it's the responsibility of the group to make sure your card is turned in. And what happened was we got done with the round, we added up the scores, and I meant to stop at Tournament Central, which was on the other side of the park. I totally spaced out on it, and I went home, and hence that's when I found the scorecard. So, yeah, that's needless to say, that's a mistake, like I said, that you should only make once in your life, if ever. And it's just another moment, another memory for then. Ryan says, you should have changed all the scores by 2 before you got there. That would have been a clever workaround. But no, thankfully, I never even thought about touching the actual scorecard score-wise. It's funny enough, Ryan, no one's ever said that or suggested as much, but no. You want to talk about feeling like the worst of the worst, though, and somebody threatened to beat me up the next day. Got in my face, got in a few other people's faces, and was threatening, to fight me over it. I think he's currently permanently suspended from the PDGA, not from that, but from something else many years later. But so maybe that tells you another story. But Billy Crump was right there. Billy Crump was ready to, he stepped in and was ready to throw fists with this gentleman on my behalf and in my defense. And it was incredible. So anyway, turn in your scorecard, people. You're responsible. And honestly, fast forward, rewind to a few weeks ago. Helen Hanley had her scorecard turned in, and at the Portland Open, turned in her scorecard, and then as she was driving away, later realized, like, no, there's something not right with my score. It was submitted ultimately as a five, I think a par 5 at the time. She goes, or as a birdie or whatever it was incorrectly submitted. She went back, counted through, talked to her card mates and said, no, this isn't the right score. So in that case, she actually got the correct score and then a 2-stroke penalty on top of it. As she later said, it cost her $20. That could have cost her a win. There's a lot of ways to look at that. And woulda, coulda, shoulda, and hindsight's 20/20 and all those other things, those other cliches. But she absolutely did the right thing, and we can't commend her and applaud her enough. Realizing as she was driving away from the course, she was given a better score than what she actually scored, and she wasn't going to let that stand, and that cost her 2 strokes in terms of a penalty because she was given the incorrect score +2. Or she had turned in the wrong score, so you get the correct score +2. Now, some would say, oh, that doesn't seem fair. She did the right thing. She also didn't turn in the right score, so you can understand why you have to, provide the penalty. I think others have said I'm pretty sure in the PGA, if that were to happen, I'm pretty sure you're just flat out disqualified from the event entirely, is what somebody told me years ago. I can't speak to that, but anyway, there's a world story for you. One of countless worlds. That was 1998. That was just my 3rd amateur world championships of all time, back when I was a little bit younger, a little bit thinner too. Let's move on to quickly talking about the preserve. I'll just tell you, I don't have a lot to discuss when it comes to the preserve, other than hopefully the air quality. I just said that air quality is going to remain decent enough for us to be able to get through, so there shouldn't hopefully be any problems there. And I don't know if we have anything that's out of the ordinary. I mean, I'm just for giggles, I thought I'd look at the UDisc win probability. Obviously nothing has started, and maybe interesting to note that right now it shows Wysocki and Heimberg both with the highest win probabilities at 14%, and Gannon Burr at 12%, Oram at 9%, Dickerson at 9%, and then it has Eagle McMahon at 6%. I think that would be somewhat inaccurate because I don't believe Eagle's going to be there, but that's just what I'm reading off of the Preserves UDisc stuff. Kristen Tatar listed this almost, I don't want to say almost feels insulting, but Kristen Tatar is listed currently at a 62% win probability. Katrina listed at 7%. Paige Pierce listed at 7%. Missy Gannon at 6%. So the next 3, and then Valerie's at 4%. So 10 and 14 is 24. So 24% goes to the next 4 women. 62% win probability in favor of Kristen Tatar. Again, Kristen's started 11 events this year. She's won 7 of them. Highest rated woman in the world by everyone's metric and standard, dominating in so many possible ways. It would be hard, obviously, to bet against her. The only other thing I'll chime in, someone asked Natalie Ryan's odds, and I don't know how serious or genuine that reference is, or if I don't know if she's actually listed. I'm gonna guess she's not listed on. No, not listed on the site at all. But the quick touch I will do here is that it was just made known recently that Natalie Ryan has filed what I'm understanding is like another injunction similar to what she did in California. I am not going to pretend to know all the legalese. I barely caught wind of the story at all in my sense at all, so I'm not going to speak anything more on it, but I'm going to guess that it has a very similar feel to what it does in California, or it did. There's been some precedent in Minnesota. I think it was known earlier in the year that Minnesota might be another place where something of this could be filed or possibly happen. I've known that much. I know there was a situation in a lawsuit regarding a power lifter that had created some precedent earlier in the year. Again, I'm not going to claim to know all or any of those details. I just know of or heard of a situation or a lawsuit that kind of was within the same realm. I'm sure, obviously, details and whatnot different, but somewhere within the same realm of that. Right now, she is not listed on UDisc. And I have no idea where this will go. I don't know of the timeline. Here we are sitting on a Tuesday night at roughly 10 o'clock Central, when this which is where the event will be, is Tuesday night 10 o'clock Central. You're talking about Wednesday and Thursday potentially having something be overturned or injuncted or whatever the word might be, or addressed. Again, yeah, I believe Disc Golf Law has a video out there. Obviously, him being a lawyer and this being his forte, you're going to get probably more than enough from over there. So that's what I would encourage you. As of now, not shown on the registration, and not on UDisc. Let me be very clear, not on UDisc as I'm looking at it. If that changes, if something comes about, I'm going to be in the booth this weekend. I will be there with Zoe and Leroy Jenkins. So obviously, if anything comes about where it becomes known that something changes from that or deviates from where we're at, then it will get addressed and then probably talked about or discussed with regards to this weekend. I would assume there may be an update, I'm guessing, come Thursday at the press conference, whether that's from a Kale LaVisca or from a Disc Golf Pro Tour representative. I'm assuming there will be some update that gets provided directly from the press conference, and maybe the update is that nothing's happening, or maybe the update is that something has changed. I have no idea. Again, that's almost 40 hours away from now, so a lot can change between now and then for us to find out come press conference. So that's all I can state on that. What I will state, something I know a little bit more about, and I thought about doing a drop zone, but it ran out of the time, is you guys have seen the rumblings of a lawsuit that was made public that you can go out and read for yourself. But if I quickly paraphrase, a gentleman in Florida who had played at the Throwdown the Mountain event was hit. This is everything I've been told, just to be clear, but was hit by a disc in the head during what I believe was his final round of competition. And at my understanding is at no point did he reach out to the tournament director and or the PDGA to go through any channels of, I'll say for lack of a better term, creating an incident report and or reporting it directly to the tournament director or to the tournament staff and to the PDGA. The PDGA, of course, I've kind of harped on this for a while. The PDGA has, if you are a sanctioned event, you have insurance. It's usually like the phrasing they throw around is like a 1 and 2 mil policy. 1 mil, I don't know all the details to it, but I know you have a pretty extensive standard insurance policy. If you were to go run a kid's soccer tournament or go to run 100 other things, a lot of them would require a policy that somewhat mimics or mirrors what you'd find from this PDGA's policy. And this has been going on for decades. So there is a policy. So if something were to happen at an event where a potential insurance claim would need to be filed, that's immediately what you do. You'd reach out to the tournament director and or to the PDGA. They would, I believe they send you to a link or even just a downloadable document, and you fill it out. And that's why we have insurance. It's an added cost for the tournament directors to get that proof of insurance. I get them for every single tournament that I run. The few municipalities where I run tournaments say we must see this document. Sometimes you can, well, not sometimes, additionally insured can be also added to this document. I believe in this case, you probably saw something like the landowners, Dylan and Paul were on the document on this insurance policy. And I'm assuming then Sun King is also on the document under this insurance policy. So that's what you see for an insurance policy that's a standard insurance policy that takes place at every single PDGA event. You got to go through the channels, and if you just read even a little bit online what sounds like some of the people that were in charge, it doesn't sound like those channels were addressed and had gone through them. And I just feel like, I guess if I had an analogy, and although it might not be a good one, if me and somebody else got in a car accident, you wouldn't drive home, say nothing to no one, not report it, not call your insurance, not reach out to the other person's insurance, not create a police report, not do like all of these things, and then a month later like call up the city and say, hey, I had a problem. And I know that's not a perfect analogy. I'm just saying, like, you take, they talk about everything you do. You hear things like paper trails, going through the right channels, taking it up the ladder, all those other cliches. Those are all there for a reason. And what struck me from everything that I've gathered is it doesn't appear that a lot of those things have been done. So it's kind of hard to go from one level to then skip 2 or 3 additional levels if that's in fact what happened. Paul Macbeth and Dylan Cease were named on this lawsuit. And of course, I think a lot of people are saying, well, they're named on the lawsuit because they may have the deepest pockets. And that may or may not be true. What I find crazy about it is, like, again, you still have to go through the proper channels to get, possibly even to the point of lawsuit. And I'm not saying that you can't circumvent certain ways. However, I feel like when you do circumvent it and you just kind of go rogue as to how you're going about it, I feel like it loosens or lightens the credibility of the overall situation. That's how I feel about it. Again, I'm not a lawyer. This should be of no legal consultation to anyone. You guys are pretty aware of this. But that's what I've been seeing. The gentleman that's filed the lawsuit is obviously not a secret out there. Trevor Tajones, I believe is how it's pronounced, runs Local Route. It's called Local Route Disc Golf Shop down in Florida. And you've seen the memes. I'm not going to go on and harp or blast or really take this anywhere past all of that. Clearly, we'll have to see how things shake out. What I think is, a couple of my big takeaways, though, are this. I disagree with the sentiment of lawsuits can't happen in disc golf. Just generically, I will say that. Lawsuits can happen, and I hate to say it, lawsuits should happen in the right situations when warranted. If I created a product, I'm just going to make up some examples. If I create this incredible product and I have a trademark or a patent or whatever, and then somebody's going out and stomping on that or ignoring it, or somebody's doing me wrong legally, and they don't stop it through the proper channels, then yes, I can understand how a lawsuit happens. I don't have a problem with the concept of a lawsuit. Unfortunately, we all know a lawsuit feels like it should be a last resort for a lot of things. I'm not suggesting anyone be sue happy. The concept of a lawsuit, I'm okay with. Does this situation sound like the right channels and the right steps were taken? To me, it doesn't. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not counsel. I'm not a judge. I'm not a jury. Just at face value, from everything else I've seen, it doesn't sound like this is a situation where all of a sudden a lawsuit popping up seems like it was handled above water, I guess, so to speak. But I will say, like, it's possible. And here's the example I was thinking of with regard to this property. Yes, of course, you're taking an inherent amount of risk anytime you're stepping on a disc golf course. We all know that. You go to a city park, you go to a private course, you go anywhere, you're taking a certain degree of risk going on to every single course. And little spoiler alert, just to kind of maybe emphasize my point, what do all of the back of Innova's newly, freshly molded discs say? I'll wait in the comments for you guys to answer that. Not on the back of what they're molded. Excuse me. What is the sticker on almost every Innova disc say right now on the back? I'll pause, let you think about that, and then put it in the comments. Gross negligence and negligence, $29.99. That's actually pretty funny. For disc golf use only. Thank you. My whole point to that is that is done for some legal reason. They're not doing it because their buyers were confused. They're doing that as some form of legal protection, right? Like, they weren't just like, oh man, we've been selling millions of Frisbees. Maybe you should clarify and put the sticker on the back that says for disc golf use only. That's not what they were thinking at Innova. Clearly, that has some legal implication. Can it stand? I don't know, but I'm just saying. Anyway, so that was my example. Now, here's what I'll say. Gross negligence is gross negligence. You're playing in a public park. You throw your shot. You shank it. None of you guys would do that. You're all smashies. But let's say your friends who don't watch SmashBox, who aren't very good, shank it, throws it straight into a car window that then creates an accident. You're going to get sued. Probably. You're probably going to get sued. The course designer might get sued. The city might get sued. And I'm not suggesting those are all good things, but if there is absolute negligence or disregard, you may have a case when it comes to a lawsuit. So I don't blanketly or blatantly or in a blanket statement just say, I detest lawsuits. There's no way there should ever be one. There never can be. And you're the worst person in disc golf if there's a lawsuit. I do not agree with any of that. Things happen, and sometimes a lawsuit's what's needed. Again, I'll go back to the example that you signed the waiver when you signed up for Throw It on the Mountain. It says, hey, I'm going to play in this event on Disc Golf Scene. I'm signing off. Here's my waiver. Gotcha. Perfect. You also then sign a waiver when you get to the course. When you pull into that property, you sign a piece of paper. You put on a wristband, which they strictly enforce, saying that you've signed that piece of paper. That's everyone's indication. Where you again sign a waiver saying, hey, I'm signing a waiver here. And then all of a sudden, you go out to hole 18, the beautiful throw down the mountain, top shot, and Mike Barnett, and I'm going to just call him out as an example. Mike Barnett has created a brand new tee pad, and it's 20 feet long, and it's hanging out over the cliff. And Mike Barnett and his crew built this tee pad. Think of like a deck or a platform. And they build it poorly with bad wood. Is there negligence there? Did he not take care of you? Did you sign the waivers? Like, you see where I'm going with this? Like, so I'm not saying every situation is crazy. I'm not saying, there can, everyone should just suck it up. Somebody fell, somebody got hit in the head, somebody this, somebody. I'm not saying you should always just suck up every scenario, and I'm also not saying, hey, nobody else can ever be at fault. There's like a fine, reasonable line there, right? And this is a very unique situation in which Trevor had got hit in the head. Doesn't seem like he's gone through a bunch of the channels or the typical protocols or procedures, and then ultimately has filed this suit. Who knows where it's going to go? Again, we've got a lot of lawyers, I'm sure, out there on the board, or that think they're lawyers. I'm not a lawyer. It'll be interesting to see what happens of this. Does it pass a few of the initial smell tests? I think in the court of public opinion, it hasn't. There's been a lot of people that have been really, really not in favor of how this has gone down, and I can understand that. I have not talked to Trevor. I don't know his position. I'm sure there's more to it that we haven't been fully made aware of. I know his Google review and some of his other stuff have been getting pounded. I'm sure he's been getting probably some kind of threats or terrible calls, which I don't feel like people should not be harassing him to the point of other legal ramifications could come about. But certainly in the court of public opinion, he has not done himself a lot of favors by the way this has unfolded. That's not to say he's right or wrong, but right now it is not passing the smell test for most people. So I guess it'll be interesting to find out how it goes. I think one of the biggest questions would be is if this all happened, him getting hit in the head, which is terrible and unfortunate, if that happens and it's still the previous landowner, Susan is her name, Suzanne, does he still proceed the same way? Maybe not. I don't know. Does this feel like a case of, hey, I know who owns the property now, and I'm going to go after them just to try and get the money because I think I can get it out of them easier or better? Maybe. I think that's what a lot of people are assuming. I don't know if that's part of his logic. That I can't really say. I mean, you do, some of us, as someone says it's Florida, but you do see a little irony that, and it's not a funny irony really, but the fact that someone was hit from above on a higher platform in all places being Florida, like, I know we always make the joke, like, obviously it's not a real mountain in the first place. So the fact that elevation came into play on this particular situation does provide just an ounce of irony, in my opinion. And my understanding is that was one of the non-pro weekends, or not the super gold, black, orange layout, whatever. So if you're familiar, many of you have seen hole number 11. I believe a gentleman was throwing off of hole number 11, which is kind of that tweener par 3, par 4, where Macbeth, the Pro Tour, took my footage, and then Macbeth parked it on the first hole, or on the first round, for an eagle to like 6 feet away. So it's that tee area, but was the throw was made and it went down into one of the fairway, and Trevor was either in between or near a fairway he wasn't really playing, and it kind of, we could argue about where fairways start and finish on some of those holes, which fairway is which, but um, he's played that course. It's funny because just a few days ago, what popped up on my feed was when a picture of myself, Paul McBeth, and Trevor all during a practice round out there that Trevor had posted. Said, "Oh, I hung out with Terry and Paul," and now obviously Paul's part of that lawsuit. So that's what I can say about it. You guys have seen probably even way more than I have. I did have a little bit of clarity that was provided to me in general, but clearly we're going to wait to see how it all plays out. So I think I've spent more than enough time on it. I don't know who wins here. What I will say though is it may set a really terrible precedent, or not, and maybe it sets a great precedent with regard to safety, with regard to control. There was a gentleman that threw the disc. Where does an individual's fault lie? Of course, as I use the example of throwing into a car or oncoming traffic or something like that. If I'm not mistaken, I think if you're at a golf course, I'll say a golf course, you smack a ball that goes off the course and into the windshield of a car, like you're liable, like you're responsible for that. That is still ultimately your hit of the golf ball. And what precedent has or hasn't been set for disc golf is to be determined, but there's a number of factors here, and I'll be interested to see how it all is going to play out. Someone says he threw a disc that didn't come from that local route store. Yeah, maybe. All right. I don't know if there's a lot else, of pressing news that isn't quote unquote more editorial. Again, someone says Dylan Cease will never invest in disc golf again. Watch. First of all, we have to see how it gets played out. I think a lawsuit could get dropped. I think it could go somewhere. It could get withdrawn. I don't know where any of what that's gonna happen. Clearly, it's gonna get already certainly tie up people and resources. I mean that sucks. I guess we'll have to wait and see. One other thing I did want to quickly touch on, and I'm hoping that there's, again, no issues with it going down tomorrow. I know there's going to be some kind of big distance competition taking place at the Preserve tomorrow, and I unfortunately don't have it in front of me. But I know it was it was going to be a big deal, or it is a big deal, and it will be happening. Now I'm going to go look for it. But I'm sure you guys have already seen about it, so maybe I don't need to drive it home anymore for you. It looks like some new baskets are coming into the Preserve. We've seen a few of the upgrades. Kale, Paul Ullman, the rest of that crew doing work out there. No surprise. Excuse me. Yes, it looks like Hole One's tee had gotten a little bit of a makeover. So that is awesome. And there's some other things out here. It is worth noting, and we talked about this kind of privately off air this weekend. It is worth noting that although Bradley Williams went over there and won in Norway, Bradley Williams won't be here to defend his title this weekend. And obviously, he feels like Norway, his significant other, and everything else that's going on over there, I don't want to say it's more important, but clearly he's prioritizing it, which I'm not passing any judgment on. I thought it was just interesting to note. Bradley Williams won the first ever Disc Golf Pro Tour event of all time. The very first one to ever officially exist. Maple Hill. The Maple Hill, I don't even know what it was called at the time. MVP Open by Maple Hill Open Challenge Vibram something or other. Whatever it was, he's had 38 different names. But he won the very first ever. 6 years later, to the day, he won the Preserve. That was a pretty cool fact last year. And now he's not there to defend his title this year. So Then again, he just won over Macbeth by a stroke a few days ago, so he's obviously has other priorities, which is awesome to see. So I thought I'd make mention that although Bradley Williams maybe was a sleeper or a super good pick last year, not so much this year. My professional fantasy disc golf advice: don't pick Bradley Williams for this year. Is he undefeated in Europe, Bradley Williams? I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if this is his first time over there. I don't feel like it was. Someone else. I do want to make a quick note of this. This was on my list that I didn't write. In what I considered shocking news, one Simon Lizotte posted yesterday that he is not, I repeat, not going to the European Open, and I'll read it for you. I've officially dropped out of the 2023 Open next month, European Open next month. Due to a number of factors, my team and I have decided it's best for me to cancel my plans for Europe this year. I'm very sad I'll be missing out on this amazing event. I'll be working hard in the month of July on other projects that are very exciting for me and need some extra attention. Sorry, Finland. I will be back next year. And somebody else just posted a moment ago, WTF. Wow. Like, just no lie. That's crazy to me. It's a major. It's this insane market. It's closer to his home, his native land. I am not judging it. Let me be very clear. Do whatever you want. That doesn't mean it's not surprising. I want him to do what's best for him, his family, his contracts, whatever. It's just still shocking to me. Now, if there's any hint of possible injury, again, totally understand it. Not surprised at all. But to not go to one of our majors, which he obviously has a legitimate shot at winning, to not attend and to continue to re-emphasize the new MVP branding and all of the fans and everything that goes along with it, just shocking. I hold no ill will. I'm not going. I hold no ill will, and nor am I going to get worked up about it. And I haven't been, and I won't be. I'm just truly shocked. And I hope I assume, let me put it that way. I assume whatever he's doing is obviously, as he said, more crucial and or just in front of him on his plate. But yeah, so I'd be curious to know what you guys, I know you guys are saying he has a life. I get all that. I'm good with it. I'm just still shocked. Someone says he's got $1 million a year contract for 10 years roughly and a new baby and his job is secure. It's not working through the best part of being a new dad just because that's the norm. He is German. All valid, absolutely valid. I mean, it's the travel, it's the jet lag, it's the acclimating once you get there, it's the acclimating once you come back. You're talking probably about playing the 3 rounds at PCS. You're talking about the 4 rounds at least. Obviously, we're just talking about straight competition. The 4 rounds of competition during the European Open. You're talking about the President's Cup to play in that on the day or two before it. Media obligations, practice, and then all the practice rounds. I get all of that. Just keep using that same word. Surprised. You're 10-12 rated. You're not having your best year. Your name's not Simon. Like, I'm less surprised by that. But, yeah. All right. What is he doing here that takes precedent? He mentioned projects. They can't refer to fatherhood. It could. I mean, we don't know. He's not going on the coolest ever summer trip with his wife and family and son. Maybe. Maybe there's a media project. Maybe there's something that MVP is just launching the biggest, greatest something or other. I I could speculate all day long. I really could as to what other things are. He's signing, moving and signing this contract for the greatest disc golf sports complex on the planet that he's about to move on to. I'm making all this up, but so I'm. It could be anything. He's opening a brewery to compete with Doss. No, that much I know he is not doing. No. Big Pro Troll says there's a big dart tournament. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe he's been asked to be on a reality TV show or any other TV show or sporting program or. You guys can go ahead and speculate. I don't know how much news that made. I saw it hit his Facebook, and that's why it had blown me away. Coincidentally, also on his Instagram, I'll quickly read what I referenced earlier. The Gotta Go, Gotta Throw with Disc Golf Pro Tour and Prodigy Disc present the Preserve Distance Invitational. That is taking place Wednesday the 28th. Come hang out with your favorite pros. It shows Ezra Aderhold, Anthony Barella, Gannon Burr, Alex Geisinger, who some of you may not know, and Double G. It also says, and see who wins the distance competition, and then it also shows Adam Hammis, Kevin Jones, Simon Lizotte, Albert Tom, and David Wiggins. So there you go. I'm not gonna lie, I wish I was in Minnesota for that. I really do. So, best of luck. All right, I think here's what I'm going to do. And I don't know if Johnny will break these up later. I don't know how good the quality is going to be in the first place, since I had to rush to get to where I was at here tonight to get this all up and running for you guys. I'm going to just take a very quick break. Stand down for just a moment. I'll come back with what I'll call an after show. I'll answer a bunch of things off the board for you guys and talk in an after show type scenario. And we'll kind of go from there. I don't think I have anything cool to do to log me off my after show. Do that to you. Oh, hey, if you want to know what happened here, we can talk about that. All right, I'm going to stand down for just a few seconds. I'll be right back. If this is the end of the regular podcast for you, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. I hope I threw enough info at you to make it interesting. Congratulations again, Kristen Tatar, along with Gannon Burr, a couple of names we've been saying quite often, and I think a couple of those names we'll continue to keep saying because of their just incredible efforts. Huge shout out to the entire Des Moines crew, along with the Disc Golf Pro Tour, the Disc Golf Network, and all the people that had to keep everything rolling there in Des Moines, and everyone in Norway who made that event everything that it was so everybody can enjoy it. I'm going to stand down for literally 60 seconds or so. I'll come right back, and then we'll have the after show. Next week we'll have double giveaways, of course, where I can send out some more stuff to you guys. So for me, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, that's been SmashBoxxTV's podcast 461. I'll see you in a few minutes for the after show. Let me step inside the Smashbox. If you'd like your name displayed on the credits, something or other, blah, 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 I'd tune out Johnny V's voice by now. All right. I will be right back. Whoa! Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 461's After Show. Welcome in, everyone. It's just me. Terry, disc golf guy. Let's get started here in the after show. If somehow you are new here, I don't know what you're doing. I apologize. I feel sorry for you. But if you're new here, the after show is usually the time where Johnny V and I pay much closer attention to what's being talked about on the YouTube chat board. From there, I answer any questions that you might have, provide some insight. It can be disc golf related or non-disc golf related, whatever the case might be. I'm here for you. Let's start out with. All right, let's just start out with my arm, which I'm not going to unwrap. I'm not going to take it all off, but yeah, my arm and a couple of my fingers and a little bit of the elbow here. A couple knees and an ankle. I took a spill, and it wasn't a spill of the Glow Round Imperial Stout, although I did enjoy some of that this weekend. Prior to getting to Bevel on Saturday, I had taken a scooter, a high-end scooter. This is not your little Lime scooter. This isn't your little 12-mile-an-hour scooter. This is a much more robust scooter, a Varla something or other. And I took a spill. It was, I'm deeming this probably the second nastiest injury of my life. And with all of that being said, I'm a damn blessed man. Yeah, no broken bones, no even visit to the hospital in this case. This sounds like a lawsuit. You're right. No, this was just a spill. I was venturing from the Doss household. No, I wasn't. Excuse me. Let me back up. Because we weren't going to come back on in the afternoon, everybody wanted to take naps because we're up at like 4 and 5 a.m. to get ready for our broadcast because it's on the West Coast. So because we weren't eventually going to be back on in the afternoon, everyone kind of went their way. Zoe was there for the weekend, and then Nate and Val, of course, at their house, and then me. And Val was going to take me back to my hotel so that I could rest, relax, and hang out. We were all going to get together in a couple hours. She was going to go into Bevel. She had work to do. Nate had already done work, so was working outside and was gonna take a nap for himself. Zoe went out and played some golf and did some other stuff with some other people. As we're pulling out of the Doss driveway, I say to Val, "Oh wait, maybe I could just take the scooter from here. The scooter Nate recently acquired. I could just take the scooter from here, and then later, and so if I want to go get food or I want to go zip around, I'll have that there." She's like, "Yeah, great." So we go back into the house, grab the scooter, which weighs like 70 pounds, 68 pounds, something like that. Get the scooter, load it into the car, and drive to my hotel room, which is just like a mile and a half down the road. I get out, grab the scooter, take it into my hotel room, end up just taking a nap. I do fall asleep. I'm tired. A couple hours later, I wake up, and Nate texts me and says, "Hey, I'm going to walk over to Bevel. Val's already there. If you want, just take the scooter that you grabbed and meet me over at Bevel." And I said, "Perfect. This is great. I get to ride the scooter around. We're all meeting up at Bevel." I have had 0 beverages at this point. It's roughly 5 in the afternoon. I'm not much of a day drinker, but it's 5 in the afternoon. All I've done up until that point is got up super early to do the broadcast, back and forth 3 or 4 times doing the broadcast, then got brought back, took a nap, wake up, get ready, and I'm off and running. And it's beautiful for the most. Well, it did rain. It rained since I took a nap because I was like, why is it all wet out here? It didn't look like it was going to, but it did rain. No big deal. Taking the scooter over to Bevel, and I'm documenting the process at some point after I've been on it a while. And this isn't my first time on this scooter, but after I've been on it for a little while, I was like, "Oh, this is beautiful." I mean, what was that guy that got super famous? Was he on a bike or a scooter? that got TikTok famous. I don't know. He's my inspiration to like what Joan Jett or something or whatever the song. I don't know. You guys all know. God, now I'm gonna Google it. I have to. Famous scooter tick. Who was that guy? He ended up getting a. Was it TikTok or Instagram? Come on, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Somebody. Oh, you guys. Anyway, so I take a video or two. Looks great. Take a video or two. Still looks great. I'm going to take another video. Traveling along just fine. I get to the edge of one of the... there's a bike lane, which also I'm very confused. In Bend, they're all about their bikes and bike lanes and all their outdoor recreation, which I love. But like, I don't know if I belong in the bike lane. Do I belong on the sidewalk? I mean, this thing tops out at 25, 26, 28, depending on how much I had to eat. Like, this thing moves. And at this point, I'm in one of the brand new bike lanes, which is like partitioned off to some degree. And I'm coming to the edge of a block. I had been filming. I had everything all lined up, no problem. Little extra wobble in the back. Oh, that hurt. Boom. I go down. It hurt. It hurt bad. Thankfully, no cars. I went down. I was already on the right side of the road in the bike lane. I went down toward the sidewalk and toward the curb, which the alternative is into the middle of the road. I didn't go that way. I went down into the sidewalk, into the curb, into the rocks, into the asphalt, into the brand new concrete curb. Went down and yeah, popped up pretty quickly, and it hurt. Ripped open my favorite jeans, which I at the last moment decided to put on. I was going to wear shorts over there. Ripped open, destroyed my favorite jeans in the world, and some pretty nasty scrapes all up and down here. Just raw arm blood, gross. A couple nasty scrapes right underneath here. Like I said, not nearly as bad off the bat. This one wasn't too bad ever, but definitely was here. Other than that, and then the knees, and then like I said, my ankle became sore and hurts too. But some guy was right there, saw it. He was like riding a bike the other way and had two bike tires. I don't know what he was doing. He insisted on helping. How did he say? He's like, "Oh shit, big dog, you okay?" or something like that. Like, yeah, all my fault. I'm good. And he proceeded. He was very kind, very gracious. Offered help 3 or 4 or 5 different times. I was all good. I was only at that point, and I'm like now up out of the near 2-mile ride. I'm a block and a half short of Bevel. Like, I had one more roundabout to go through, and I was at Bevel. And at that point, I was trying to determine if it was best to ride back to the hotel, get changed, and clean myself up, or just continue into Bevel. And I'm glad I made the decision just to continue the block and a half to Bevel, where Valerie and their first aid kit kind of took care of me. And then from there, even though Nate was more than happy to take me, I got in their car and drove myself to go get the variety. Here's when you know you're in trouble. You're at the first aid lane at a Target, CVS, Walmart, whatever, and you don't know how many or which bandages to buy because you don't know how bad everything is. And I literally bought a variety pack because I'm like, I think I need some this size. I think I'm going to need some that size. I need some bandages. I need some gauze. I need some wrap. Yeah, so I hope you never have those decisions to make as to which one should I buy. But I ended up buying a ton of it. I bought sprays. I bought ointment. I bought everything. And then I got back, got cleaned up, and it's been painful ever since. So didn't hurt my head, didn't touch my face. If you can't tell, it's been fine, but I've been in a lot of pain, and I can't say it enough. If it were this is the second most injured I think I've ever been, and that's a pretty damn good record. 44 years in, this is the second most injured I've ever been in my life. I'll take it. So, all right. So that's what happened. I appreciate you. Fair or not, it ended up getting the most amount of messages I've ever gotten on Instagram, where I eventually posted some of the pictures and then eventually the video. Thank you. The outpouring, the support. Yeah, 0 out of 10. Do not recommend. Is what I told quite a few people, and I appreciate all of you guys being so concerned. And it wasn't really hideable, because the very next morning when I went live on air, I had been bandaged up like this after a fresh shower and a new set of bandages. And Val thought I should have went with telling everybody I got some, badass tattoo. And that wasn't the case. Not an intentional tattoo, that is, did I get. But yeah, we had all sorts of stories we were going to work on. So when it was all said and done, I think I'm on the mend, and I'll be back. And Doc, as you say, yeah, Val ended up, bandaging me up 3 or 4 times in the few days, and yeah, I'm very thankful for her. She's 8 months pregnant and concerned about getting me all bandaged up. So we'll let some of those mom instincts kick in for sure, and I very much appreciate it. Quick side note to that. Speaking of Val, real quickly, and I know there's a petition running around. I've yet to sign it, so you can hold me to this. I'm gonna go sign it tonight. There's a petition running around the internets to, I think, rename one of the courses in the area of where where Val and the Jenkins family grew up. To, I think, rename one of the courses or name it after Leroy Jenkins, Val's father, who passed away a couple years ago now. So go out. I'll post a link to it on Facebook. I was going to say, nothing to lose by it. Leroy, one of the kindest, sweetest, most gentle souls on the planet. And yeah, so there's no reason not to sign it, I guess, is an even better way to word that. But when you interact with Val and Val's mom and Val's brother, Avery Jenkins, you see where all of this kindness spills through with this entire family, and certainly comes from Leroy all those years. It's just such a soft-spoken, funny, soft-spoken, kind human and individual. So I'm embarrassed to say I didn't sign it yet, but I've been seeing it run around, and I know it's happening. So I will get it signed, and I will post it on Facebook for all of you guys to find it in case you need to. The Roscoe Ewing course. Oh, okay. Jay's asking about playing up there. And in all honesty, I have never played over there myself. I've never been to that area for any events. I know they've hosted a ton of events and had a lot of the top pros and done a lot of really cool things throughout all these years, but I've never been over there myself, which is surprising. I was at the AM Worlds in 2010, and then I've been to just 1 or 2 Brent Hambricks. But otherwise, my Ohio disc golf has been always somewhat limited. Somewhat. I mean, I played Mount Airy in 1996, but who didn't? Right after it was listed in the Disc Golf Monthly as one of the best courses in the world to play. You remember that magazine that came out every 2 months, and it looked like a newspaper. It was exclusively in black and white. Disc Golf Journal. Did I just call it that? Yeah, it's Disc Golf Journal. And then, like, of all places to play, they would kind of like have a signature course or a signature hole or something of that nature, some feature, and Mount Airy was listed. So in 1996, while going to my first ever AM World Championship, our good buddy, not related to the Jenkins family, but my good buddy Tom Jenkins, who was my legal guardian for the week because I was only 17, he took me and my 2 buddies and all to AM Worlds in Augusta in 96. And on our way down in his minivan, On our way down, we stopped off and played Mount Airy because it had just been listed as like one of the best courses in the world to play. And so we stopped off and played it on the way. So anyway, yeah, there's a trip, another trip. Am Worlds, another trip down memory lane. It wasn't just about getting to the course. That very year, we stopped in Tennessee, and I played some of my first course ever in Tennessee. We played one or two courses in the Nashville area, and we also played at Mount Airy in the Cincinnati area. And those were both en route as we took a couple days to get down to Augusta, Georgia. So that's also part of it, right? All right, let's read from the board. I want to get you guys all caught up to speed. Ray says, Mount Airy is literally my backyard. That's awesome. I haven't been there since 1996. I'm guessing it's withstood a large test of time, but maybe not all of it by today's super competitive standards, but I'm guessing it looks as gorgeous and is as awesome. The raccoons are fearless. You can't shoo them away. They know better. We'll go with that. Massive J says, Terry or the disc golf guy, please get Matty O to the Mall of America food court. That sounds fun. I'm not around. I will be in Bend, not riding a scooter, and so I am not any assistance to Matty O, unfortunately. Although it would be a lot of fun probably, but I will not be with Matty O. Biagio says, Terry, you're the OG. I've been around a long time, and I'm very fortunate that when I discovered disc golf, I was 13, and the fact that I found competitive disc golf, and I had these mentors and these insanely, father-like humans and figures in Tom Jenkins and John Turlap at the age of 15, 16, 17, completely shaped it and molded everything about disc golf for me. And that was in the mid to early 90s. So I love the fact that when people always say, I wish I would have found disc golf earlier. I couldn't have found it much earlier than I did. And then I'm even more blessed that when I did find it, I found organized disc golf, which is nothing like it is today, but I got to find organized disc golf right off the bat. So that's why my world's experiences go all the way back to 1996. Brody was asking about a tweet you had about Paige earlier, but he couldn't stay. Okay. I'll quickly touch on that. And this is one reason why I hate Twitter, is because I maybe others don't, I get lost real quick. Who's replying to whom about what exactly? Sometimes that gets frustrating. Brody, I think it was Brody specifically that originated the tweet this weekend that said something along the lines this is on Sunday, and it said something along the lines of Paige letting, maybe I can find it. Paige letting the crowd choose her disc, and then she goes OB. Interesting storyline if she loses by a stroke. That's how I read it. That's what I saw. And I just replied in between sentences on the network. I just replied and said, it's not really that big of a deal, only because the other disc that was in her hand, she could have also went out of bounds with. I mean, she could have clearly aced with that other disc. That too. We all know woulda, coulda, shoulda. But Paige threw a relatively good shot in that situation on hole 5, if you don't know what I'm talking about. Hole 5, it's an island green. She throws over the water, hits dry, and then it slides back. I'll say south. It slides back into the water, but it hits inbounds and then just kind of slides down the hill into the water. It wasn't a terrible shot. In fact, she could have maybe thrown it 10 more times and it might have stuck 8 of those times. Who knows, of course. Again, woulda, coulda, shoulda. But the fact that it happened, I don't think we can second guess later that, well, if she would have thrown the other disc, that might have been the difference maker of a stroke or two. Well, it might have been. But I mean, she could have literally thrown that other disc and had the exact same thing happen. I don't know if the other disc was a totally different mold. It looked like she put a good move on it. It looked fine. It was a tad short. I mean, anyway, so I wasn't trying to be argumentative. I wasn't trying to be overly, defensive or sensitive or anything of that nature. I just quickly chimed in with and said, I don't think that's a big deal. And then Twitter did Twitter, and a bunch of other people went off about other stuff, and then I think somebody thought somebody was replying to something, and then next thing you know, there was like this fight that I didn't think I was even part of, or disagreement or yelling match, whatever you want to call it. And at some point, I just bowed out. I said all I was talking about was that I don't think we can essentially second guess her and her decision too much. And then after that, I was lost. Some people were attacking me. Some people were attacking Brody. I think. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. It's for those reasons. Sometimes that can get really frustrating. And I'll be, you guys already, a lot of you guys know. Twitter's 5 to 8% of my social media concern. There's a lot of things I like or go after. I try to keep up, but yeah. So I don't know if that's what he was asking, if he popped on here. I've got no ill will or intentions. I would hope or think he shouldn't toward me. If other people got it twisted, then other people got it twisted. That's what I can say about that. Some people asking where Johnny V is. Yeah, Johnny V's internet. Interestingly enough, while I was gone this weekend, I got an alert to my phone saying, hey, the internet is down at your house. I said, oh, cool. I'm not there. I don't care. Thanks for letting me know. I think Johnny has a different service, and he got an alert today saying internet is down at his house, and he lives a half hour away from me, 10 suburbs over. So internet was down at his house, and he said he wasn't probably going to be available for the show. And at that point, I reached out to Gannon Burr and said, hey, I'm sorry. I know I just asked you to be on it, but Johnny won't be here to press the buttons, and I'm going to be remote and not have all my shit together. So I'm just going to go solo. We'll have you another time. Gannon said, no problem. I think you're up to speed. And then Johnny popped on the chat for a few minutes to say hi using his BlackBerry, I think. That's probably what he did. JV needs Clippy. You see the internet zone. May I help you with that? That's a good call. You're really starting to pick up that Bend accent? Is there a Bend accent? There can't be. It's funny when people always make fun of me as it is for my Midwestern accent. What are your thoughts on all this recent news about aliens, Terry? Is that specifically related to Big Germ's post, or is there another alien conversation? If it's Big Germ's post, I'm not concerned. If there's a bigger conversation that has, I'll say, more weight to it, then maybe. But if there isn't a legit alien conversation outside of Big Germ's post, I'm not aware of it right now. Solar flares, yeah, probably. Are they in the oceans already? JD seems like a flip phone kind of guy. And here we are in a more somber scenario, and I'm not going to dig too far into it, although it's interesting to hear more about it. Last week it was at this time we were talking about the submersible, the Ocean Gate Titan that was missing at that time, and then obviously there's been since then been the updates. It to me has been really. First of all, I'm sorry anyone's passed away. Of course, nobody wants to see anyone suffer and perish that way. What's I think been really interesting, as much as I know zero about oceanography, is just some of the warnings and some of the things that have been from a business perspective. I read emails that say, this gentleman warned, the CEO of these things a couple years ago. There's a YouTuber who was just in that very submersible. I feel like a few days before this, he was in what they ultimately called Mission 2, and Mission 3 is the one that was this last one. And there's just a lot more things coming out about it, which has not made me any kind of scientist, but nothing more than just being interested in seeing how egos come into play, seeing how the safeties and the precautions and egos and all of that played into it. It seems like a lot of it. It's absolutely wild. And as someone said on the board, they Blue Boy says they didn't suffer. All the nitrogen in their blood was sucked out, and yeah, I mean just all of it in general. And that, again, the little I've read is that it was whatever pain or suffering that they might have had probably happened too quick for their brain to even register it. So, for all of that being said, I mean, I guess, yeah, good to say that it wasn't probably slow and miserable and painful. It was so instantaneous it couldn't even register. That checks out with what I've been reading as well. So, the implosion was extremely, extremely fast. I hope that means they didn't suffer. Yeah, again, the little bit I've read, it sounded as if it happened probably so quickly that literally your brain didn't even register the pain that was coming because it was probably so instantaneous. So, what do you do during rain delays? That's a good question, right? Of course, whether I'm on site or off site is very different. This weekend, I mentioned it. We at the Bend household would sign on, sign off, say hi, we'll be back. Then we kind of just lounged around in the living room waiting for updates, just like the rest of the world, really. In this case, we had the Croco open to watch, but it was largely just waiting around. Myself and Nate, more so Nate this time, reached out directly to Seth Muncie on the Pro Tour and just said, hey, what are we looking at? And Seth was able to say, we're talking to this meteorologist, we're using this service, we're doing these things, here's where we're at. So that's largely what we did. And just like players, just like media, just like everyone else, there's this uncertainty when you don't know what's happening with that weather that was super frustrating, that you can't avoid. Like, it'd almost be better if you just saw, well, yeah, it's for sure rain in the forecast for the next 8 straight hours. We're out of here. Or thunderstorms or whatever. But it felt like there was pockets. It felt like we had time. So then we came back on. Then we came back off. And it just is totally disjointing to everyone. I'm not gonna say it's any worse for me than the players, clearly. Because I'm sitting in a air-controlled room and environment a couple thousand miles away. So it's not physically demanding or painful on me in that sense. But you're coming on air, you're coming off air. Do you have any momentum as a commentator? Did you just say the dumbest thing ever and you're excited for a reset, just like them taking a bogey and they're excited for a reset? Were you in a flow where words were working that day and all of a sudden you're taking a break? I suppose there's a little element to all of that. And then just coming in and out of the shows and here's what's happening, here's the update, here's the non-update update. That sometimes can get a little taxing or stressful on us as well, but not like the players. Clayton Bigsby also, I think, aka whatever your other silly login is. No, I haven't banned you yet. You're somehow you keep skirting that fine line of not saying anything terrible enough. I don't want to say dumb enough. You've said plenty of dumb stuff. Terrible enough to get you banned. You banned. Zootown Open is obviously too small to be an elite. Do you know of any of the mountain courses that could be a solid touring stop? Is obviously too small to be an elite. I don't know if that's the case. I can't say that one way or another. I've never been, so I can give no feedback or anything to that. I can't think of another mountain course, but I have limited experience on mountain courses. Just know mountain courses may or may not continue to provide a challenge of cell signal, which is a huge concern of the Pro Tour, and then just surely infrastructure challenges. Getting all the assets up on the course in all the various ways. You have an extra level of safety concerns, just like we experienced last year. We saw someone's caddy actually go down from both heat or an altitude exhaustion or whatever. when we were in Colorado for the match play championship last year. And then sometimes there's the players that who may think, you know what, we play, I'll just make up a number, we play 25 weekends a year at sea level or near it. I don't want to go to this crazy altitude and completely adjust the disc and how I'm throwing the disc for one weekend. And I'm not saying that's a valid excuse, but I'm just saying it is a reality. It's not a crazy one, in my opinion. But I can't think of any others off the top of my head, but I'm not the right guy to ask for that. You'd have to ask somebody that has more Colorado, mountainous region and area experience than me. I mean, it will be fun to be at Snowball, as of course I played in 2003 for the Worlds, and it was then played in 2005, an easier version for the AM Worlds, and then it's getting played again in a couple weeks for Pro Masters Worlds. So yeah, I mean, that's a good course. Maybe, check with me in 3 weeks, and maybe I'll have a definitive. But there again, now maybe the course can handle it. Can the city handle it? Does Flagstaff want it? Is that the right place for our players? Flagstaff's incredible. The few times I've been there, but last time I was there was 2005. So I'm excited to take a look at it again. All right, let's keep it rolling here. You guys are keeping me busy. Anyone have haze from Canadian fires? We talked about that a little bit earlier, that yes, it's very much affected Milwaukee right now, and where I live, Milwaukee area. And then also it then was in Peoria today, and it may be off and on for the next day or two. And that halted AM and Junior Worlds for a few hours, at least for some of the courses today. So hopefully everything's back up and running there. Disc Blaster, that's your other silly login name. Are you in the booth this weekend? I am. What you saw last weekend, I believe, is exactly what you're going to see again this weekend. We're talking Zoe Endyke, Valerie Jenkins, and myself on the FPO side. On the MPO side, myself and Nate Doss. I don't think Nate Sexton's around, but I believe it's just myself and Nate Doss for the weekend on the MPO side. Truth be told, of course we love having Zoe, and she's definitely getting more and more in the booth and more available. She's, in addition, also there because Valerie's now 8 months pregnant, and obviously any day anything could happen. So she's hoping that she gets through this one more weekend of commentary, and then she's going to be off for a few months. But good that we have Zoe as well there. So even if Val did get pulled into labor and this life-changing child arriving, we would have myself and Zoe. So that is by design. Would you be willing to travel to Europe to do the commentary for the Euro Pro Tour next season? What would it take? I mean, are you talking about 2 straight months of being there? Are you talking about... Yeah, I'd have to know what you're referring to. Would you be willing to travel to Europe to do commentary? I don't know that I'm the best fit for that. Possibly because I don't know. I don't want to say I just don't know the names of the players, because you can learn those. But I don't know. What are my obligations with the Disc Golf Network? Obviously, they essentially have kind of first dibs at me year after year for the last few years, where they ask me if I want to work a particular weekend. I almost have never said no. And that, when it's all said and done, has consumed almost 20 weekends between booth and on site. So I don't know if that would be a possibility. That's all a good question. I don't know what it would take. Have you ever played the Paw Paw, West Virginia? I have not, sadly. Legendary. Heard about it for decades. But I have not played there, unfortunately. Yanni, I think it is, says no FPO at an A tier isn't conversation worthy. I mean, there's a lot of conversations we've had tonight, and I didn't have a list in front of me. This is all off my dome. Yeah, I caught wind of, only again by the socials. If I'm correct, what I believe happened was H.B. Clark, who runs a ton of events in Kentucky area, who has for decades, is hosting an event that's an A-tier, Kentucky State Championships, maybe it's some event, and instead of potentially having, for lack of a better term, the controversy of allowing or disallowing transgender competitors, he has opted to have no FPO division, to not offer the division. That may become more popular. That may not. I mean, I feel as if every municipality and every TD and every state will be making some of those decisions for themselves. Like, I don't want to say read the room, but kind of. Like, what is best for you, for your constituents, being your players, for your sponsors? Like, every TD needs to make their own decision, and there may be this may become more popular. If you look at the lawsuit that Natalie Ryan has brought forth, I believe it named Kale's design company, Kale's disc golf company, Kale Design, or Kale LaVisca Design. It names Kale, I think it names the PDGA, and I think it names the Disc Golf Pro Tour. If it's HB, who I think it is, that's running this event, he may be just thinking, okay, well, if I just don't offer division, that's one way I can avoid this conversation, or I can avoid this controversy. Now, what it also does in the same breath is it may piss off a whole bunch of other FPO players that want to play. I mean, nothing for nothing. If someone like if any of our transgender competitors weren't even thinking about playing in that event anyway, then it feels like he's taking away an opportunity, or not providing an opportunity for other FPO players to play. I think Jessica Oleski was the one who asked about it, who plays for MVP. She's out of Michigan. She travels to some A-tiers and national tours. That's how old I am. She travels to some A-tiers, some Disc Golf Pro Tour events, so on and so forth. She plays pro. And I think she had asked and said, hey, I don't see the FPO division. And then that's when it came to light that the TD said, I'm not offering one. So if Natalie Ryan, for example, wasn't planning on ever playing in this Kentucky event, and 10 other FPOs were, then those 10 other FPOs are disappointed. Now, if Natalie was going to play and it was going to create a lawsuit or dare I say a different headache or a different controversy for HB, and that was what he's trying to avoid, that's how he's handling it. I'm going to say I don't pass any judgment on any of how that's handled. Every TD, and I'm one as well, every TD, every municipality, every event, every club, every area is going to have to find what is best for them, whatever that is. I may not agree with it personally, like at a core level, but that doesn't matter. It's what is best for them. They're the ones running the event. So I hope, I don't know. I mean, are you looking for me to say like something really egregious or one way or another about it? You're just not going to get that from me, or hoping for some like, I don't know, outrageous soundbite of me saying something. I'll be honest with you. I don't have a list of every single topic in disc golf since last Tuesday. So that's why it didn't come up. But as soon as you did mention it, I'm here for you because I think I knew it. But I don't have a list in front of me. Btron asks, it was hidden, but I'll show it because I'm that kind of guy, and said, has anyone referred to your face as a punchable face? Asking for a friend. Yeah, I feel like there's some seemingly frustrated or upset women that have posted with regards to some other controversies. Somebody somewhere saying I have a very punchable face or something like that, which is fine. You can say that. It's not original. But I mean, maybe it's true. I mean, my face is kind of fat, so it'd be easy to punch it. Sure. Fun fact, I haven't been punched in the face. Ever. All right. Doesn't mean people haven't wanted to. I don't. This might also come as a fun fact. Most most disagreements, arguments, or volatile situations usually end with more of a with an oratory lashing of sorts, and or I've handled it that way. Somehow I get people to back down. All right. It's a snake. Not at all. I wondered if this wasn't an exact open division. Okay, you guys are continuing to go back and forth. That's fine. You can talk about it. BS tear. I don't know what's BS, but okay. Was it JVD who asked if my face was punchable? Maybe not. JV wouldn't punch me in the face. Just don't get hit by a disc in the face at Throw Down the Mountain. That dude seems punchable. Borderline harassment. The disc golf community is full of love and tons of hate. Haters, ball for sure. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really, really mean-spirited people that love to get wild with it out there. That's their prerogative. You said your scooter accident was your second worst injury. What was your first? In my opinion, coincidentally, it's kind of disc golf related as well. My first was, I don't think I can give it to you, but maybe I can. Okay, yeah. If some of you have seen me, my left leg sustained a nasty, disgusting shredding back in August of 2016, and I can only place it because a couple days later I went to the Worlds and walked around. Yeah, I was helping, as I do every year for the last 20 some years, with a particular boys and girls like school program, after school program, and I provide usually every year some lightweight discs for the event, like some 150 class discs. And I was digging around in my storage unit, climbing up on this, moving that, shaking this, whatever, and slipped. And you guys have probably seen metal shelving. Well, there was a piece of metal shelving that I had broken earlier, and long story short, I slid my leg down like this metal rod, sliced my leg wide open, my left shin. It does make me almost like cringe just even thinking about like where my leg went and what it slid across. Slashed it, sliced it all the way open. Ended up, I think the number was 13 staples and 8 stitches, because I've had stitches before. I've never had staples before. And I just remember I had more staples than stitches. And I think it was 18 staples and 13 staples and 8 stitches. So that happened. It's disgusting, as you can imagine. Of course, I posted it to Instagram. Not when it happened, but right after it did. And didn't end up getting to the program. We got the discs and all the stuff to the program for the kids. Everything went off that year, no problem. I've been there every year since. That was 2016. And I just remember having all of that happen, and then it was like a day or two before my birthday, and then like 2 days later, the doctor said to me, okay, here's what I need you to do, because I had all these staples and stitches up and down my leg. They said, rest it, don't walk on it, don't be on it, elevate it, and keep it cool. So what did I do? I drove the 10 hours to Emporia. 2 days later, or a day later, drove the 10 hours to Emporia, walked around in 110 degree heat, walked on it in 110 degree heat for 5 or 6 straight days. So I did exactly everything that they told me not to. But that was live disc golf. That was the year Ricky Wysocki would go on to win. SmashBoxxTV was the only live disc golf network. We had we had 2 cameras, maybe. We had 2 cameras, and me walking around out on the course or being in the booth with Robert McCall, and it was wild. So, and Leroy Jenkins, of course, won as well. So, yeah, that was, I feel like, my worst ever injury. So again, knock on wood, prayers, thoughts, whatever, anyone and everyone. If those are my two of my worst injuries in my life, I'm doing all right. But wait, so there are some discs for sale with dried disc golf blood on them? No, no, I dripped blood on a bunch of other stuff, but I wasn't on any discs. When I was in that storage that day, I did have to throw away the keens. They were literally all pooling up with blood. It was disgusting. Yes, many of you already seen that Nico had made a review for the local route disc golf shop. That was all. Now it's recycling and resurfacing. He wrote I'll say nasty. He wrote a scathing review a few months ago when he had a fallout with local route, and now local route's very much in this conversation again due to being involved with this lawsuit. And it's all out there. If you want the drama and you want it, it's all out there for you to consume. Ray says, what caused your partial deafness? Good question. Don't know. I was tested in second grade. They're like, oh, you're like 80 or 90% deaf in that ear. I was like, okay. They're like, do you want a hearing aid? I said, hell no. Because what kid in the 80s wanted a hearing aid, right? That's like, and was probably insanely expensive. I don't even know if my parents would have bought it for me. But no kid wanted a hearing aid. And I've lived with it ever since. Which didn't mean much until I got into disc golf media and wished I had two ears more often, two good working ears. Robert, working with a waste company in Texas near family. That's correct. I miss him dearly. Such a great guy. He's alive. Don't get me wrong. I miss him in disc golf media dearly. What cams do you recommend for filming disc golf? I got the DJI Pocket 2, and it's not bad. I mean, I use a couple of Canons. HXR N90s and N80s. They're like a slightly smaller version of what you see that Jomez and the Pro Tour often use. If you were looking for just a straight camcorder, anything that's got XLR inputs or has an XLR input and has a decent 20 or so zoom. Having the XLR inputs to me is like the game changer. You go from like a $12 or $13 or $1,500 camera up to about a $2 or $2,500 or $4,500 camera when you go there. But that's what I like personally. Linda Hamilton lost some hearing while filming Terminator 2. I can see that. How long did it take you to turn your disc golf media into your full-time job? Still working on it. No, I started disc golf media stuff in 2010, and it was all part of 100 things I was doing. I was still running tournaments, still designing courses, still running leagues, teaching classes at 2 different universities for disc golf. So I've done a million things, selling discs and all of that stuff, and media didn't become like a primary focus, like the major majority focus, until probably just before the Pro Tour had started in 2015 or 2016, and that time frame. It was one of 10 things I was doing, and it's now finally taking on the majority of my work. All right, I'm gonna read a few more things, then we'll start to wrap stuff up for you guys. We can't have a show that's just as long with or without Johnny. I guess we could. What is your biggest pet peeve when playing disc golf? Either a card mate or someone else on the course. This might not surprise some of you with how much I harp on it often in other places. Exceeding 30 seconds. Not taking 30 seconds. Take 29.999999 seconds on every single throw. I won't love it, but you're within your rules. I don't care. I wish you'd play faster, but I don't care. When you can exceed 30 seconds, and it's not a once in a round super sticky situation, and you just take forever, and that's because you're lollygagging or because you're using your rangefinder now or whatever, excessively or repetitively exceeding your 30 seconds, that's probably my that'd be number one, and number two right behind it is just someone that doesn't shut the F up ever. We've all played with them, him, her. They just never shut up. I don't care probably what you did on this whole last round. I don't care probably what disc you're throwing. Like I'll ask those questions, and I am not above conversation. I am all about light, basic conversation. Some people just don't shut up. Like, just don't shut up ever. Like ever. And we're here for some social interaction, and I am social, and I've never worn earbuds and like all that stuff. So I'm here for that. Don't get me wrong. I blathered on hours ago about how much I love these experiences of playing and what you get by making these new friends and all that stuff. But there are some people that just like, okay, I'm gonna throw now. It'd be cool if you shut up for like a few seconds. Let me at least throw without you talking. I feel like there's sometimes a lot of that. So those are my biggest pet peeves. I'm gonna say, yeah. Doc says, yeah, get a red camera. Yeah, you could do that. When are you gonna do an in the bag? Who knows? I keep threatening that I will. It's all stuff that's from 10 years ago, for the most part. How come we never hear about your wife? She's there. I have found my ways to separate every bit of how I interact, and there's different times and different scenarios for everything. Yeah, it's been a little bit crazy. Terry's in the bag with all his collection. Would take 2 days to film. That's an understatement. Yeah, in the bag is even tough because there's like a few discs that I throw occasionally, and then there's all of my collection. So it's a totally different story. We're losing Tyler. I totally agree. I saw that. Many of you guys probably saw it in the last few days. Tyler from DGA said he's moving on from disc golf. He's going to play disc golf and, somewhat be involved in whatever. But the work he's done with DGA, and you guys just have no idea. Well, some of you do, but he's just was such a breath of fresh air. He was such a great guy. He is such a great guy, and disc golf is going to miss him tremendously. I can't say it enough. Ever discussed teaching disc golf at a uni with Felberg? He taught out in Oregon. I never talked to Felberg about it. I mean, I know that he was doing that out in Oregon. I was doing it at UW Milwaukee. I did it at UW Parkside. Mine, I don't know if mine were about the same length overall because I did a couple of them for a few different years. It would be funny to have those up and running again. Kind of sucks that once disc golf gets a few dollars, the lawsuits start flowing. I won't rehash all of that again. There is a time and a place for lawsuits when warranted, is what I will say. I don't think we could never not sue anyone ever. Hopefully, though, it's a last resort, and they're only when warranted. And so, yeah. Are you a fast play guy like MJ? Yes. I just play quickly. That's all there is to it. As funny as that may seem, for me and my size, I just get up and play quickly. Heal fast, my friend Dan says. Thank you, Dan. Who's the pun story of all the names? Who's gonna do the pun story? Yeah, with all the names. I mean, are you kidding? Like, just him doing that alone, in the effort that he put into doing that a few years ago, was insane. Yeah, he is such a talented human, and I hate that disc golf will not have him as part of the everyday fabric. Smashbox versus Bogey Bros, when it's going to happen? Good question. Off season, maybe. I feel like, I feel like they would have the upper hand. I mean, they play golf almost every day. Johnny and I, they played more golf. Let's put it this way, and this is just a fact. They played more golf on their recent road trip than Johnny and I have played in the last 2 years. So yes, I would think those two would have the upper hand on us. I don't watch the video, so to speak, but I would have to assume that they would have the upper hand on us by now. Tim says yes, his commercials are unique. Everything Tyler Brickley did was in fact unique. Someone also said Robert and Bobby were such an amazing team. Yeah, a couple of great assets for sure. And quick plug, he didn't pay me for this, but I did see it for 2 seconds today. I think Bobby Brown has officially launched a Clash-based disc golf website where he's selling Clash-related items and Clash misprints. So check that out. Is it CoolDaddySlickBreezeDiscGolf.com? Maybe. I apologize. I'm not sure what it is, but I did just see it tonight. Smashbox featuring Ali Smith versus Smash Bros. Let's play Mount Airy if you come to Idlewild. Yeah, that means I have to play golf. Who plays golf anymore, Tim? Well, you do. That's good. Mount Airy, Mount Terry. Something like that. Well, everyone, I think that's about it for me. It's been a lot of fun talking with you guys. I know it's not quite the standard format of Johnny V and I bantering back and forth and me telling him how wrong he is on stuff, but it has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys. Sorry it was a little bit basic and elementary here in terms of the setup and the style, but hopefully we still got all the points across. I got the points across that were needed. It's gearing up for what should be another good weekend. Looking forward to the Preserve, looking forward to the distance competitions that's taking place out there tomorrow. Best of luck to everyone at AM Worlds, and just enjoy your time. We're going to crown all those champions, which I'm super excited about. Enjoy your time. Soak it in. Soak all of it in. And whether this is your last year as an AM or not, it doesn't even really matter to me. I'm just glad you guys are there taking in the experience and having it. So we appreciate it. All right, I'm going to I got an update today. Nate Doss sold the scooter. So even if I wanted to ride it around again, I don't think it's going to be available for me. So maybe that's best. That's not going to scare me off of scooters or mopeds. I'm just going to not be on his for the foreseeable future. But don't worry. I'll get back on the horse, as they say. For SmashBoxxTV Podcast 461's after show, I'm the Disc Golf Guy. I love you guys for joining. I really do appreciate all your questions, your insights. Hopefully you learned something tonight, or you had a little bit of fun while you were here. Thanks for Johnny for getting this out in the audio format as well. I appreciate each and every one of you. Next week, double giveaways. You already know that's coming. And we'll see you next week when you step inside the Smashbox. I gotta reach up and click this button. Boop. Okay.